I'm Regular Zach, and this is my limited set review for the Edge of Eternities Magic the Gathering set. Again, this is a limited set review, so I'm only talking about these cards in the context of draft and sealed, and today we are talking about all of the green cards in the set. I'm going to be putting everything on a rating scale from A to F, so A's are bombs. These are the best cards in your deck, the ones that you hope to open, and the ones that you show off to your friends. B's are cards that actively pull you into this direction, into these colors. C's are the majority of your deck. These are like just bread and butter cards, things that you play often that are like pretty good. But you know, C minuses kind of trend towards like, I wish I didn't have to play this too much. Because you're getting close to the D's, which is cards that you really hope you don't ever have to play. Sometimes they sneak their way into your deck, but if they're in your deck, something probably went wrong and you lost sight of the draft somehow. And then F's are just cards that you should never put into your deck. They weren't made for draft, or they just functionally don't work, or they're horrible, and you should never ever play them. Let's get right into it. We're starting off with Gene Pollinator, which is a single green for a 1/2 artifact creature robot insect at common. It has an activated ability. You can tap it to tap an untapped permanent you control and add 1 mana of any color. So tap this plus a land or a lander token or any sort of other thing, and you fix your mana. This will be pretty helpful to fix things because there isn't a lot of fixing in the set. However, I don't think we want to be splashing too much anyway, and I don't know how much we want to be just tapping things in general. It's funny that this is here because the green-white archetype cares about having 2 creatures tapped at the end of your turn. This would be a really great way to do that, except for this is green, and I don't think we're going to be able to fit that into that deck because I think that splashing is going to be very difficult. So maybe there are some payoffs in red for the red-green deck, or maybe the green-white deck that care about that, but ultimately, I think this is probably like a C level, like C minus. I'm not obsessed with this, and I don't think we're going to be too into it. So like C minus for the Gene Pollinator. Next up, we have Meltstrider's Gear, which is a single green for an artifact equipment at common. It says when this equipment enters, attach it to target creature you control. Equipped creature gets +2/+1 and has reach, and equip cost is 5. This is just not that exciting. 1 mana for +2/+1 and reach. You know, totally reasonable, I guess, but like I don't love this, and it's like 5 to equip is so much. Yeah, this is like a D+. I don't really want to talk about this anymore. I'm not happy about having this in my deck. Next up is Sammy's Curiosity. It's a single green for a sorcery. You gain 2 life and you create a lander token. It's also common. So this is kind of like 3 mana, gain 2 life, and put a basic onto the battlefield tapped. That's basically what this is doing. You just get to do it over 2 turns. I think I want a little bit more in my card than just create a lander token. I have creatures that do that. The fact that this doesn't have anything else with it doesn't seem very good, so I'm just going to give this a D. Landers are good, I think, but overall, I'm not obsessed with this. I know that you could, you know, I would play a 3 mana go fetch a land thing sometimes, and this is cheaper in certain ways, but I just don't love this card. I'd like landers to come from other places. Next up, we have Intrepid Tenderfoot. Is 1 and a green for a 2/2 creature insect citizen at common. You can pay 3 mana to put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Activate only as a sorcery. The only as a sorcery part hurts a lot, but of course they probably didn't want you to be able to do this in combat to screw up some stuff. So this is like your 2 mana 2/2 that gets bigger if you have nothing else to do. It's like a C minus. It's nice that it's a 2-drop, but that's kind of it. The green-white deck does care about +1/+1 counters, so there could be some synergies there, but there are a bunch of other ways to get counters and stuff, and you know, it only puts counters on itself, so yeah, C minus. Next up, we have Blooming Stinger, which is 1 and a green for a 2/2 creature plant scorpion at common. It has Death Touch, and whenever this creature enters, another target creature you control gains Death Touch until end of turn. I think that this card is perfectly fine. It's a C level card. 2 and a 2/2 Death Touch is nice. Giving another creature and letting it have Death Touch for the turn is nice. And this obviously pairs really well with fight spells. I do prefer this to be like a 1 mana 1/1. But the 2 power might be helpful, and it does help a little bit in like this becomes a little bit more aggressive. The 1 mana 1/1 Death Touch looks very defensive, while the 2 mana 2/2 is like, okay, I can't take too many hits from this 2/2 before I actually have to trade off with it. So it looks like a little bit more of an aggressive card, so I kind of like that. Next up, we have Bioynthic Burst, which is 1 and a green for an instant at common. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains reach, trample, and indestructible until end of turn. Untap it. This is just the catch-all combat trick. It's like, hey, you get a counter on your creature, it helps your counter synergies. It gets reach if you're blocking, it gets trample if you're attacking, it gets indestructible either way, and you get to untap it. Go for it. This could be kind of interesting if you're stationing your creatures, or you're using your creatures to station so they're tapped, and then you get to untap it to block and put counters on it to make it bigger to help your station, blah, 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 blah. But in the end, I still think this is like a C-level card. Just like, I like that it gives a counter. The counter is actually huge with this. The fact it doesn't have hexproof is one of those weird things. The green protection spells go back and forth between indestructible and hexproof, or just indestructible. And oftentimes hexproof can do a lot of stuff we'd like to do if it's getting bounced or things. But honestly, who cares? Indestructible is fantastic, and it just works in so many different situations. I think you will play this card. Next up, we have Galactic Wayfair, which is 2 and a green for a 3/3 creature human scout at common. It says, when this creature enters, create a lander token. Awesome. Lander tokens, this is the first time we're seeing them. They are artifacts where you can pay to tap it, sacrifice it, search your library for a basic land card, and put it on the battlefield tapped. We did not read it during Sammy's Curiosity, which I forgot, but that is okay because we read it now, and landers are great. Very good cards. I am still debating whether, I think it is a little up to debate whether they're better or not than clue tokens. I think generally in my mind, clue tokens are just better because I'd rather draw a non-land card. But the fact that this just pulls them out of your deck and ramps you, that is pretty sweet. So they're awesome. This is exactly how I want to get a lander. 3 mana 3/3, and then I can crack this lander later. Nice. It's like a C+ level card. Very happy to have cards like this in my deck. Next up, we have Sky Stinger, which is 2 and a green for a 3/3 creature insect warrior at common. It has reach, and it says whenever this creature blocks a creature with flying, this creature gets +5/+0 until end of turn. So it blocks as an 8/3 if you're trying to fly over this thing. This kills every flyer. This is crazy. I guess maybe not every flyer. There are, technically this creature does not kill a bunch of the ships, the spacecrafts. So there is that. But those have to get suited up and stuff. And if you have 2 of these, then you definitely kill all of them. That's actually not even true. There's a 20/20, but whatever. Anyway, this card seems like a C. It seems nice. But not extremely excited by it. Just seems kind of interesting. We don't see this ability very often, but yeah, C-level card. Next up, we have Thawbringer, which is 2 and a green for a 4/2 creature insect scout at common. It says when this creature enters or dies, you get to surveil 1. Awesome. Surveilling 1 is really sweet, especially for your 3 mana creature that's going to trade off with stuff. I do prefer the Surveil 1 on the 2-drops though, but when you get it, when it enters and dies, that's all fine and good. But the 2 mana 3/1 versions, I think, there is the funny thing. It's like, if you have the 2 mana 3/1 and you have 2 lands in your hand, you're like, well, I'm definitely going to Surveil into a land. And then you don't, and then you're pissed off. So at least this one keeps your mind away from trying to keep those really sketchy hands. But I also think this is a C-level card. We'll be very happy to surveil things into our graveyard or do any of that stuff. Green-black does have some recursion things going on like they usually do. So Thawbringer, just another C. Bread and butter, nice, good. Next up we have Shattered Wings, which Shattered Wings is a 2 and a green for a sorcery at common. It says destroy target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying, and you surveil 1. Sure, sorcery speed destroys some stuff. There are obviously artifacts in the set. That's the biggest thing that this kills. I mean, we always care about killing creatures with flying, but destroying some artifacts could be really important in the set as well. So, there's some of that stuff there. Ultimately, I do think this is still just like a D. The Surveil 1 helps a little bit, but I'm never really excited to put this in my deck and be like, hey, I've got removal, because you don't always really have removal. But it could be helpful in sideboarded matches. The time will tell whether this is actually worth sideboarding. Sorry, whether this is worth main decking or not. But I'm going to say no. It's a D. Next up, we have Diplomatic Relations, which is 2 and a green for an instant at common. Target creature gets +1/+0 and gains Vigilance until end of turn. It deals damage equal to its power to target creature and opponent controls. All right, so this is our fight spell of the set, our common fight spell. Bite spell. This is the bite version, where you don't have to worry that your creature is going to die, which is really great. It is 3 mana, but it is an instant. The one weird thing about this card is that it's an instant, which means you want to use it in combat. However, it gives the creature Vigilance, which makes you want to play it before combat. So really it's like 3 mana, get my creature suited up, kill one of the blockers, attack. They have to block with the other creature kind of thing, or they can't block at all. I still think this is a C+. I think it's a good card. I just think it's really interestingly designed, where it's like, hey, it's telling me, because it's an instant, I should play it on my opponent's turn or in combat, but the Vigilance is making me want to play it before that. So I guess it's just extra. It's just extra. I don't have to use it if I don't want to, but having a 3rd mana to give us Vigilance is, I'd rather this be 2, but you can't always get what you want. Next up, we have Drixs Fate Maker, which is 3 and a green for a 3/2 creature Drixs Wizard. Didn't know Drixs was a creature type. What is a Drixs? Is it this weird shaped creature thing? I thought this was kind of like a cat looking thing, but maybe it's more like a weird skull guy. I don't really know. Anyway, tell me what a Drixs is. This is a common version. It's a 3/2. When this creature enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has trample. So this is a 4 mana 4/3. It could be. It also has Warp. This is the first time we're seeing Warp in this video. Warp for 1 and a green. You may cast this card from your hand for its Warp cost. Exile this creature at the beginning of the next end step. Then you may cast it from exile on a later turn. So 2 mana, you play this, put a counter on something, and then later you get to play it for 4 mana, put a counter on something else or itself, and then all the creatures that have +1/+1 counters have trample. Sweet. Okay, that's pretty cool. I think this is like a C+, because the flexibility is really nice. I like these Warp cards quite a bit. And yeah, the flexibility is fantastic, and giving your creatures trample is also very good. So definitely happy with this card. Next up, we have Ice Cave Crasher, which is 3 and a green for a 4/4 creature beast at common. It has trample. It also has landfall. It says whenever a land you control enters, this creature gets +1/+0. Hey, look, it's another chocobo. Look at this little chocobo. Huh. Sweet. 4 mana 4/4 trample. Attacks as a 5/4 most of the time. Sure. Seems like a C. It's okay. C-. Not obsessed. But yeah, I think it'll sneak him in its way into my deck, and I won't be too pissed. Trample is nice on bodies like this. Can always be a bit interesting, a bit frustrating for your opponent. Next up, we have Germinating Worm, which is 4 and a green for a 5/5 creature plant worm at common. It says when this creature enters, you gain 2 life, and it has Warp 1 and a green. So this is the first time I'm going to talk about this, is where warping creatures that have really high power will be helpful when you're trying to station your spacecrafts. So you can pay 2 mana, play this, gain 2 life, tap it, station for 5, put like 5 charge counters on your station thing. At end of turn, this gets exiled. You get to play it for 5 later. It's a 5/5. You gain 2 life. You can station the rest of your thing, and it gets to attack. I think this one will be fine, but it also is just a 5/5. It's just a chunky dumb 5/5. The 2 life / 4 life that you get from it is fine, I guess. I think the warp goes a long way. I originally had this a bit lower, but I am just going to give this like a C-. I had it at like a D level, like we didn't want to play this at all, but I think the warp does help enough, and having that, like if any of the station stuff does work, I think warp is so important for those decks. So they will care about this. Maybe there's a deck that wants to go big like that, but who knows? But anyway, it's fine. It's fine. I wish it had more keywords. Next up, we have Fungal Colossus, which is 6 and a green for a 5/5 creature Fungus Beast at common. It says this spell costs X less to cast, where X is the number of differently named lands you control. So it's a 7 mana 5/5, but if you're playing a 2-color deck, which you probably are, this is just a 5 mana 5/5. You're not going to be playing a bunch of different named lands because there are not any like common dual lands that have different names that aren't just the basic ones. Like you're going to be playing this in a deck that says like Forest Island and then this card. Yeah, I don't really like this card at all. I'd much rather be playing the germ, the worm germ with the warp. This card looks horrible. It's never going to cost less than 5 basically. It's going to cost 5, maybe 4. And did you really do anything? This is a D. This could be just an F, but I'm going to give it a D minus. This card's bad. This is the one that I'm really thinking about. Yuck. Not a good card. Next up, we have the uncommons. This is Edge Rover. It's a single green for a 2/2 artifact creature Robot Scout. An uncommon. It has reach. It says when this creature dies, each player creates a land token. So you and your opponent. But it's a 1 mana 2/2 reach. That's pretty sick. I do think that this will be much better in constructed formats because turn 1 having 4 copies of this in your deck will be a lot better in standard. In limited here, the fact that I'm giving my opponent anything like those lander tokens, really bad. I really don't want to do that. And especially if this is the type of thing that wants to be aggressive and trade off with stuff. I don't know if we are going to benefit as much as our opponent who's trying to stop us and ramp to their big stuff, maybe. So I'll give this a C. I like this card. I still think it's worth playing, absolutely. But it's going to be much stronger in other formats, I think. So just a C-level card here. Next up, we have Hemosymbic Might. It's a green for a 1/1 creature might at uncommon. It says whenever this creature becomes tapped, another target creature you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn, where X is this creature's power. So when this attacks, you give another creature +1/+1. Or this thing holds +1/+1 counters like nobody's business. This is a great target for that. You get to give creatures +2/+2, +3/+3, all this kind of stuff. Or you can also use this to station things, give one of your other creatures plus whatever, and then they get to attack while this is just stationing. Interesting. I really like this card. I think it's got a lot of play to it. It does need some other stuff around it to be fantastic, though. Playing this in an outside of the green-white deck seems bad. So I think it's probably just like a C, because that's the only real place we'll be happy with it. Which is kind of a bummer. But green-white will love this card. Other colors will not. Next up, we have Meltstrider's Resolve. It's a single green for an enchantment aura at uncommon. It says enchant creature you control. When this aura enters, enchanted creature fights up to 1 target creature an opponent controls. They deal damage to each other, equal to their power. And it says enchanted creature gets +0/+2 and can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. So it has the opposite of Menace, where it's like only 1 creature can block it. This card's sweet. This is awesome. Like, great fight spell, only costs 1 mana. It is sorcery speed, but you do get to bump up your defense, which is usually what you need in green to make sure you don't actually just straight up die. And then afterwards, it makes it really hard for your opponent to actually kill that creature in combat because they can't, like, double or triple block. They have to just have a big creature. So obviously this wants to be on something huge. But yeah, C+ for this card. I'm excited to see what this does in Pioneer, actually. It looks pretty cool. But next up, we have Uidian Terabotist. It's 1 and a green for a 2/3 creature insect druid at uncommon. It has landfall. It says whenever a land you control enters, you gain 1 life. Nice. Just a little what was that card called? There's that tree that did the same thing. But this is a 2 mana 2/3, which I do love 2 mana 2/3s. They're the new 3 mana 2/3s. So super stoked on that, especially because this does feel very this feels like a great card to just stall up the board, gain some life, make attacks hard because you have this nice blocker early, and yeah, get to do ramp into some big stuff. I like this a lot. This is yeah, giving this like a C. I don't know if I want to give it a C+, but it's a C. I like it. Super cool. Great body. Next up, we have Close Encounter, which is 1 and a green for an instant at uncommon. As an additional cost to cast this spell, choose a creature you control or a warped creature card you own in exile. Close Encounter deals damage equal to the power of the chosen creature or card to target creature. This is super sweet. I like this a lot. One of the things that happens whenever you're playing fight or bite spells, in green it always happens, is where if you are trying to fight something or bite something, you target your creature, you target their creature, and then they use removal on your creature, your removal spell fizzles, and you lose your creature. They 2-for-1 you. It feels awful. They can even bounce your creature in response. There's so many different things they can do to screw you up. This says, hey, actually, you know what? I actually warped my creature, so it's safe in exile. You can't do anything to it. I'm going to have that creature that's coming later. They're in light speed right now, so don't worry about it. But they are the one punching you. Sweet. B- for this Close Encounter. I really like that addition. I think this design is super cool, and I think this is a great card. Next up is Siege Ship Impact. It's 1 and a green for an instant at uncommon. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. If it had mana value 2 or less, create a land or token. This I don't think is for us. I think this would be great in sideboards everywhere, outside of limited. This is like a D. I don't think we want to play this. In a pinch you can, but I think I think it's better in different spots. Not versatile enough, I say. Next up, we have Broodguard Elite. It's X green for a 0/0 creature, Insect Knight at uncommon. It says this creature enters with X+1/+1 counters on it. When this creature leaves the battlefield, put its counters on target creature you control, and it has Warp X and a green. So this is a card that you want to play much later in the game. This is actually, instead of thinking of this as like like 2 or 3 drop or whatever, you should think of this more of like a 5 or 6 drop, where you're like, all right, I'm going to warp this out, put the counters on somebody. Again, like warp it out, station a thing, put my counters on something, it exiles. I bring it back, I get a bunch of counters. When my opponent kills it, I put those counters on something else. All of that combined is pretty sick. I think this card's probably like a... I'm going to give this a B. Honestly, I think this is cool, and I kind of like this +1/+1 counter thing that's going on. And this card has a lot of play to it. I think it's strong. B for Broodguard. Makes sense? Put the counters everywhere, buddy. Love it. Next up, we got Melt Strider Eulogist. It's 2 and a green for a 3/3 creature insect soldier at uncommon. It says whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it dies, draw a card. Boom. Draw a card? Absolutely. Yes. Yes, this is a B+. B+ for this dude. I love cards that say draw a card. I love this card. Let's go. The only downside is that it cares about when the creatures die. But it is the kind of thing where it's like you get to slam this and just brawl and just be like, I'm attacking. And if you're trading, I'm drawing cards. So you don't want to trade. But you also have to take a bunch of damage because I'm in green. So what are you going to do, buddy? Sick. This card's great. Next up, we have Larva Scoutlander, which is 2 and a green for a 3/3 artifact spacecraft at uncommon. It says when this spacecraft enters, you may sacrifice a land or a lander. If you do, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. And then in stations, of course, you can tap creatures to put charge counters on it. And if you put 7 power worth of creatures on this, it is a flying 3/3. So a 3 mana flying 3/3 kind of thing. Really what this is like a crop rotation type of card where either you sacrifice a land to go get 2 lands or you sacrifice a lander. I love this in the lander type thing where you're like, okay, 3 mana, play this, sacrifice my lander, get 2 lands off of it instead of just 1. And then later this becomes a 3/3 at some, it could possibly do that. It seems really interesting. There's also some stuff that care about playing cards from your graveyard. There's a couple rares that do that, and some other stuff. So yeah, we could do something here. But in the end, it's probably just like a C. It's like a C. I would like this in like lander heavy decks. It would make me really happy to play this and crack my landers and get 2 out of it. That sounds nice. But in the end, not crazy amazing. Next up is Tapestry Warden, which is 3 and a green for a 3/4 artifact creature robot soldier at uncommon. It has vigilance. So 4 mana 3/4 vigilance. And it does the big butts thing. Each creature you control with toughness greater than its power assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. And each creature you control with toughness greater than its power stations permanence using its toughness rather than its power. Okay. I don't think there's a lot of support for this. This is just a card that people think is kind of fun. There's a couple stations that have really big toughness. But I think in the end, this is probably just like a D. I'm not really interested in doing the butts thing, and this doesn't even give me a huge payoff. And there's nothing inherently... I can't find a bunch of stuff that does it. I guess this would turn a bunch of your 2/3s into 3/3s, basically. But not in love with this thing. I think we'll just skip this. There's some funny bingo stuff you can do with this. So if you want to have a good time, show me your Tapestry Warden decks. But I don't think it's going to be great. Next up, we have Siege Ship Agrarian, which is 3 and a green for a 3/3 creature insect scientist at uncommon. It says whenever this creature becomes tapped, create a lander token. I'm sorry, what? Becomes tapped? Okay, yeah, I'm listening. Landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Frickin'. This is a B. Buddy, this is a B. This card's awesome. I love the tap this, make a lander. This makes me want to do station stuff where it's like, oh, I'm stationing all day. And then like getting your landers, cracking the landers, putting counters on this. Then you get to start brawling and you're attacking and you're making more stuff. You pull all the lands out of your deck. Freaking awesome. I like that a lot. Attack and basically ramp. Okay. Sick. This card's awesome. B. Next up, we have Atmospheric Greenhouse, which is 4 and a green for a 5/3 artifact spacecraft at uncommon. It says when this spacecraft enters, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Everybody. You can also station it for 8 or more. It's a 5/3 flying trample. Not obsessed with that part about it, but the putting counters on everybody could be nice. You do need a board though, so this does kind of nothing without a board. All the stupid spacecrafts do nothing without a board, so this is like a C. I'm gonna be pissed when it comes down and like smokes me when I'm playing against green-white, but you know, it is strong if you have all that stuff going on, but you do need other stuff happening. This is going to be the worst top deck when you don't have anything on board. It's going to be so sad. So that's why I'm giving it like a C. Yeah. Next up, we have Social Engineering. It's 3 green for an enchantment at uncommon. It has landfall. It says whenever a land you control enters, create a 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token. And it also has warp 1 and a green. Okay, so this card reminds me of the Chocobo Racetrack from the last set in Final Fantasy. It was a 5-mana artifact, or was it an enchantment? I can't remember anyway. But it had the same thing. It had landfall, make a 2/2. But on 5 mana, that's really, really difficult to do. However, what you could do is on turn 4, when you have 3 lands in play, you warp this out, play your land, make a 2/2 robot, crack a lander, make another 2/2 robot. This leaves, and then the following turn you'll have 5 lands. You play this and play another land for your, it's turn 5, but you ramped, so then you have 6 lands in play. You get another 2/2 robot. I really like that 4 into 5 thing if you can get enough lands. If you can find a way to get a lander token onto the battlefield before turn 4, which there are many ways you can do it. There's a lot of 2s and 3s that get you landers. That seems like a really scary play pattern to me. Like, that seems like a blast. I really want to do that. Now, does that push this up into something else? Yes. If I could have played Chocobo Racetrack on 2 to get a couple Chocobos before having to wait till turn 5, it would be significantly better. And the actual card it's a strong ability, and we do get to get a lot of, like, the fact that we have landers in this set means that this card's actually pretty good. So I'm going to give this like a B-. I still think that it could be kind of expensive, and you do have to do some setup to get the thing going that I was talking about. But this is pretty sweet. I really like this a lot. Next up, we have Harmonious Grove Strider, which is 3 green for a star creature beast at uncommon. It has Ward 2, and it says this creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control. Is that its face? It has a little weird face. I thought it didn't have a face. I thought it was just like a weird turny thing, but it's got a weird, it's got eyes and a mouth. It's just kind of looking at the sky. That's creepy. Ugh. Okay, that freaked me out a lot more. I did not realize that. Ron Spencer really doing it, really hitting me hard. That creepy face. Anyway, 5 mana, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, 8. Just big dummy. Sure, it's like a C. It's like harder to target and it's big and dumb, but not phenomenal. Nothing special. Nothing special. C. Next up, we got Pull Through the Weft. It's 3 green for a sorcery at uncommon. Return up to 2 target non-land permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand. Then return up to 2 target land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Okay, so this is saying like 5 mana. If everything goes great, you have 2 non-land permanents in your graveyard and 2 lands in your graveyard. 5 mana, draw 4 cards. There's a lot of setup that goes into this. There's a million ways to mill yourself. Don't love it. Don't love it. 3 green. That's a lot to get things back. I'd rather get things back when if you can spend 3 mana to get stuff back so you can actually play one of those things, but 5 mana to get cards back is a lot. And I don't know if the lands are going to be worth it in the end. So I'm going to give this like a D+. I can see the potential. I see the strength. I see it. I see it that it's there. But I don't think you should put this in your deck. Next up is Lash Whip Predator. It's 4 green for a 5/7 creature plant beast at uncommon. It says this spell costs 2 less to cast if your opponents control 3 or more creatures, and it has reach. So a 4 mana 5/7 with reach. By turn 4, if you were on the draw, most likely your opponent will have 3 creatures if they're aggressive, and then this thing stops them dead in their tracks. If not, it's a 6 mana 5/7 with reach, which still stops them in their tracks. I'm going to give this like a C+. I think this is pretty cool. It really says, hey, your expensive card, if your opponent is going out, like all out really quickly, you get to play this cheaper. I like this ability. That's great innovation. They have not tried this yet, or at least not that I've remembered in the last few years. Awesome ability. Really helping out those green decks that need to stop, need a big boy on the battlefield. They cannot wait till turn 6 to do it. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, C+. Next up, we have Glacial Godma, which is 5 green for a 6/6 creature Leviathan at uncommon. It has trample. And it says when this creature enters, create a lander token. Okay, so 7 mana 6/6. When it enters, you make a lander token. Landfall, whenever a land you control enters, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain vigilance and haste. Vigilance and haste? Okay. So you're probably not doing it the turn that you actually play this card, but if you do happen to be on turn 8, you can play the Glacial Godma, then play a land, make all your creatures get +1/+1 at vigilance and haste, attack with a bunch of stuff. This also has trample. It gives you the lander token, so you get to do it the following turn anyway. This seems like a B+, baby. I'm scared of this card. This is awesome. I like this a lot. This is a great payoff for the landfall deck. B+. Yeah. Let's move on to the rares. Moving on, we see Frenzied Bailoth is green for a 3/2 creature beast at rare. It says this spell can't be countered. It has trample. It has haste. Creature spells you control can't be countered, and combat damage can't be prevented. Okay. This is like a C level card. It's really hard to cast because it's green. In limited, you would like to have both of your colors on turn 2, not just one. Your lands are probably not going to cooperate, and this spell can't be countered thing doesn't matter nearly as much. Combat damage can't be prevented doesn't really matter that much. This is really just a 2 mana 3/2 trample haste that you probably can't cast on turn 2, or you can't reliably do it. This looks like it's for constructed. It's playable, but it's not this crazy bomb. You won't be able to do what you want to do with this card. This is for constructed. Welcome to standard. Next up, we have Terra Symbiosis, which is 2 and a green for an enchantment at rare. It says whenever you put 1 or more +1/+1 counters on a creature you control, you may draw that many cards. Do this only once each turn. That many cards. Okay, So this is the kind of enchantment, it is a do nothing type of thing, so you have to be in the deck that does have +1/+1 counters going on stuff. There do seem to be a good amount of those. Green white, this is like a bomb, this is like a B+. But green red, I think there's a couple things. Green black, green blue. You know, it's only cares about +1/+1 counters, it doesn't care about station stuff, so... Yeah, I think it can be really strong, but you do have to have a deck around it. So it's either unplayable, it's an F, or you're in the green-white deck and this card's a freaking house. So, yeah, play this in green-white. Next up, we have Sledge Class Seed Ship. It is 2 and a green for an artifact spacecraft at rare, has station. And you can station for 7. It becomes a 4/5 flying creature. And says whenever this spacecraft attacks, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. No, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. These Elvish Piper type things. This is like a 3 mana do nothing. Tap a bunch of creatures on your board to play some things for free from your hand. The fact that it has flying is kind of nice. But I don't really like it. You have to have creatures in your hand that you want to be cheating on the board that you can't really play. I'm going to give this a D. I don't really like it. I don't think you should play this card. All the ones, it's too slow, and it's too slow, and it's too slow. I don't like it. Next up is Bioengineered Future. One green is the mana cost. It's an enchantment at rare. It says when this enchantment enters, create a land or token, and each creature you control enters with an additional +1/+1 counter on it for each land that entered the battlefield under your control this turn. Okay. The first time I read this card, I definitely thought it said each time for each lander that entered the battlefield under your control this turn. That seemed really bad. The fact that it does care about lands is much, much better, so I do need to reevaluate this a little bit. I was like, this is a D. If I only care about landers entering, that's horrible. But the fact that it cares about lands, that's fantastic. Hey, reading the card explains the card, and this is another one of those reasons you can look at cards forever. Always read it. Just read it again. Hey. Don't forget, read it again. All right, so this enters. You get a way to go get a land. Fantastic. And then each of your turns, you're probably putting a land into play somehow. So basically, all of your creatures enter with an extra +1/+1 counter on them. Yeah, that's sweet. That's like a B. That's like a B. You still need other things going on. It doesn't do very much by itself, but when you're playing more creatures... You know, I'm going to give this a B+. I think, well, there's so many cards that care about, like, the +1/+1 counter thing. And I think all of it's starting to go up. There's tons of counters flying all over the place in this set. It is nuts. B+ for the Bioengineered Future, now that I read it correctly. Next up, we have Loading Zone, which is 3 and a green for an enchantment at rare. It says, if one or more counters will be put on a creature, spacecraft, or planet you control, twice that many of each of those counters are put onto it instead. And it has Warp for a single green. So if there's one turn where you need to play this, put a bunch of counters on something, it can leave. That's kind of cool, because there's a lot of cards that care about you playing cards to get counters. And so being able to do this for one single green, to have the effect just for one explosive turn, that's pretty awesome. I like that a lot. That does push this out of any sort of like kind of sad zone that I had it before. But then the 4 mana part where you're just playing it, it sits on the battlefield, like it's kind of all right. You need to be doing a lot of stuff with it. The warp goes a really long way, but you do need to have some way of abusing that. I'm going to give this like a C+, where I think you can play this. It does need to be in that specific deck once again, but there's a ton of things that care about counters. And if you have one big turn where you're like, you know what, let's... Your opponent won't see this coming if they're like, well, they definitely can't station their thing today, so, or this turn. They won't be able to do that on this turn. You're like, well, actually, I can. Now it's a huge creature. Now I attack. Plus, I played something else because this only costs 1 mana to do that. Awesome. Great. Yeah. Okay. C+. Pretty cool. Next up, we have Icetail Explorer, which is 2 green for a 2/4 creature insect scout at rare. It says you may play an additional land on each of your turns, and you may play lands from your graveyard. And it has landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, mill a card. Sweet, so you get to play 2 lands a turn. which really helps with a bunch of our cards. Like, there's so many landfall cards that care about that. You get to play lands from your graveyard because you're milling a bunch of stuff. You're getting more lands that way. This card looks awesome. Yeah, this is like B plus in the green black deck, but a B everywhere else. Actually could be a B plus in the green red deck too, because that cares about lands a lot. This is sweet. I don't think it cracks into the A range for sure, but let's just give it a B plus because I think it's super cool, super interesting noise. Next up, we have Might Form Harmonizer, which is 2 green for a 4/4 creature insect druid at rare. It has landfall. It says whenever a land you control enters, double the power of target creature you control until the end of turn, and it has warp for 2 and a green. All right, so there is power in this card because obviously you're doubling power. Ha 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 ha. So the power is doubled. The toughness is not doubled, though. That is important. So it does mean that your creatures just kind of get big powers and then you attack, and then they probably get traded off with. It will benefit a lot from lander tokens where you attack with a creature or a couple, and your opponent's like, well, you can crack that lander and then you get to pump one of your creatures to get huge. So if I double block one of them, you can either pump that one or pump the different one or blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to give this like a B minus. If it gave plus X, which X is equal to its power, that would be a lot different. But the fact that it only doubles the power means that you will trade off a lot of creatures, and that kind of gives it it loses a little luster there. Yeah, so B minus for the Might Harvester. Next up, we have Oroid, the Ouroboros. It is a 2 green for a 1/3 creature plant worm at Mythic. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put X +1/+1 counters on each creature you control where X is this creature's power. This card's great. I want this card in my deck. This is one of those, you got to answer this or you gonna die. Like, turn 2, play something. Turn 3, play something. Turn 4, play this. Put counters on a bunch of stuff. If you don't deal with it, next turn I put more. And it also puts counters on this creature, so it just keeps going up and up. So the first turn's 1, second turn's 2, third turn's 3. And that's not even with you adding more counters to this guy from other means, because your deck's probably going to do it because there's so many counters. This card's sick. Super scary. Big boy. Next up, we have Famished Worlds Sire, which is 5 green for a 0/0 creature Leviathan at Mythic. It has Ward 3. It also has Devour Land 3. It says when this creature enters, look at the top X cards of your library where X is this creature's power. Put any number of land cards from among them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. This card is nuts. If you are in a deck that cares about lands entering the battlefield, this guy is the business. So you enter, you sacrifice 3 lands. It's a 9/9. You could just sacrifice all of your lands if your opponent is tapped out. If your opponent is not tapped out, you probably want to save yourself some lands because there is the situation. No, that doesn't even matter. No, it does matter. Sorry. I was going to say it didn't matter because if it died, you would still get to look at the stuff. You will still get to look at the top of your library, which X is equal to its power, which if its power is dead, you don't get to look at any cards. So you will have to worry about going too crazy with this. But if your opponent is tapped out, it does have Ward 3. You just slam this down, sacrifice all your lands, look at the rest of your library, basically, and then put all the land cards onto the battlefield from it. It's going to have a huge power. You sacrifice 8 lands. So you look at, what is that? 24? You look at, is that right? Yeah, you look at 24 cards in your library and get all the lands out of it. That's going to be the rest of your library. So that's insane. This card's dope. I'm giving it an A- because it is expensive. It is triple green, and you might kill yourself on accident, or just wipe your whole mana base if you're not cautious about this card. But it's really cool. This card's sweet. Not even to mention that you get to trigger all your landfall stuff 1,000,000 times. What a cool way to do it. What a great design. Cool. Next up, those are all like the regular cards from the set. We do have 2 special guest cards that are in green that we're going to talk about right now. So the first one is Burgeoning. They are these special art things. It kind of looks like a book cover from a fun, whatever, 50-cent paperback novel from your local drugstore or whatever. I think the art looks awesome. But as far as the card goes, Burgeoning is a single green for an enchantment. It says whenever an opponent plays a land, you may put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. I don't think that Burgeoning is going to be super great. Most of the time, you want your landfall effects to happen on your turn, I'm pretty sure. And you just need to have a ton of card draw to make sure that this works. You do get to play a bunch of lands. Like the game where you start off with like 6 lands and Burgeoning, like it sounds really exciting because you're like, look at all the lands I'm playing. But then like you don't have anything else to do. This card is really exciting in Commander because you have 3 opponents, so maybe you get to dump a bunch of cards out of your hand. It also cares about opponents playing lands, so it doesn't do the same thing with landers, so you're not going to get 2 off of it. You need so much card draw for this card to really be good that I think that we probably just don't want to play Burgeoning. I think I'd probably just leave this on, like, I might take it just because it looks cool, but I don't think we will actually want to play this card in draft. So I'm going to give F to Burgeoning. I just don't think it's going to be that strong. Next up, we have Green Sun's Zenith. It's a sorcery, and it costs X and a green. It says, search your library for a green creature card with mana value X or less, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. And then you also get to shuffle Green Sun Zenith into its owner's library. So you kind of do this over and over again. Normally, I don't like tutors in draft. However, this does tutor to the battlefield. And you get to pick whatever you want. It's like, what's my best creature in my deck? Just add green to its mana cost. Boom, there you go. It's on the battlefield. And that is super scary. I think this card's really great. It's probably actually just like an A. This card's super strong. And then you get to hopefully draw it over and over again. The only thing that sucks about this card is that you have to get a green creature. That's the biggest thing. You can't go get your bomb that's in a different color. So you need to be very heavy green for that. So we'll knock back like maybe an A- here. But I still think having like, if you get 1 or 2 green bombs and then this card, you're like, I just have extra copies of my bombs in my deck. They're just a little bit more expensive. I think that's great. Also, just like the artwork is so dope. It's really hard for me to pass these cards, even though a couple of them don't do super great like Burgeoning, but this one's awesome. I like it a lot. Well, anyway, folks, those are all the green cards that you can be playing in Edge of Eternities Limited. Let me know what you think in the comments below, what your favorite cards are or anything, or if you completely disagree with me on something or everything, let me know. But anyway, folks, I will see you next time. Thank you so much. Bye.